For joining me for my weekly video blog, Astrology in the News. And today is May 29th, 2018. And yes, of course, there's always news happening. Lots of news. And I actually got two major stories I want to cover today. And one of them really is going to be in the news for a while, and that's a TrumpKim Summit. And then, of course, we're going to start by taking a look at Roseanne, who went on some sort of tweet storm talking about apes and what else did she talk about? Apes, Muslim Brotherhood, and how Valerie Jarrett is. And Roseanne, if you don't know this by now, you don't mess with George Soros, okay? You don't mess with the Soros machine because they will bury you. And of course, she's in the process of being buried and her show was canceled. But let's take a look at her chart here. Roseanne Barr is currently going to be going through a transit. I think I have a transit chart, but take a look at her. Her ascendant in Rahu is in the sign of Capricorn. Now, when you have Rahu in the first house, it does make somebody pretty self-centered. The reason why is because usually wherever Rahu is, it denotes an area of passion in the chart. And when it's in the first house, that is, in a sense, the core of the individual. So when you put Rahu in the first house, really all the attention tends to come back and the passion gets turned into that particular person. And so what happens though is they tend to be very successful as well too. So somebody that I can think of right off the top of my head that has Rahu on the ascendant is Tom Brady. Doesn't mean everybody likes them. It just means that by sheer force of their own effort, they do very well. And if you take a look at Roseanne Barr, she was one of the first middle class like female comedians that really looked like average America, middle America. She was actually a groundbreaker on that. And that's not because of her weight. Actually, she's not that big. Anyway, so really taking a look at her chart, we see that with Rahu in the first house. The moon actually is in a pretty good position here. This is exalted in the fifth house. You know who else has something close to this is Barack Obama. Ironically, she insulted somebody in the Obama administration, and her chart's pretty close to Barack Obama. And actually, too, Obama's actually Capricorn ascendant too. So you can actually see. Actually, Roseanne is a progressive person. She ran for the Green Party. So I mean, this is somebody. I mean, it just goes to show that she does have progressive values. Let's see. Moving on with the chart, everything else is pretty standard. Let's see if we take a look at her fixed stars here. I'm not seeing anything major. Let's see, Venus and Mercury here in the sign of Scorpio. This usually is somebody that really has a lot of passion for things, especially around their network circles and things like that. The one thing though that I will tell you about having Rahu in the first house and Ketu in the seventh house is usually when the axes are in the first seventh house, it makes for difficulty in relationships. Generally speaking, I've seen that because usually what happens is it throws off the balance between both persons because either the person is giving too much or they're asking for too much. It's one way or the other. So if you have this combination in your birth chart and you have some issues with relationships, take a look at which one is where. Usually if you have K2 in the seventh house, that means that you're giving a lot of attention to the other person and maybe neglecting yourself. I've actually seen it play out both ways, but it just shows an imbalance. Let's see other stuff here. Let's see, Saturn, the sun is actually debilitated. This is pretty interesting. The sun being debilitated here in the 10th house shows that somebody has a hard time developing their ego. So over time, though, this stuff tends to change. That's why we have the Navamsa chart. So the great thing about the Navamsa chart in Vedic astrology is it shows where somebody is going. And really, it tends to kick in your mid-30s. So you become more like your Navamsa chart as your age, but that does not override the birth chart. The general rule is the Navamsa chart is used to kind of fine-tune the birth chart. So for instance, we have a debilitated sun here. Well, if we take a look here in the Navamsa chart, it's not in a very bad position. It's here in the sign of, let's see, that is Pisces. So this shows that somebody, when they were growing up, they had a very little self-expression, but as they grew, they kind of learned to have their self-expression through a Pisces, like expressing their emotions or making emotional connectivity to people. So that's kind of how that plays out. It's like, so if we take another example, her exalted moon here is in the sign of Aries. So really, you know, we have somebody that really goes from being very, let's see, like an exalted moon. They really are very, how do I put it? They're very easily influenced, especially like Roseanne Barr. If the moon isn't conjunct anything, usually these people tend to take on the opinions of people around them. However, as they get older, and in Roseanne's case, the moon being in Aries, nope, she has her opinions. They go where she goes, and then she basically pushes out her emotions. There's a lot of force of emotion in her chart here. All right, so moving on, next thing I want to do is talk about Roseanne Barr's transit. So she is actually, if you take a look at her ascendant, I've been talking a lot about K2 and Mars here. This is really the theme of the summer. And so for her, K2 is actually almost right on her ascendant. And this is an accurate birth time for Roseanne Barr if you ever want to look at her birth time. She was born in Salt Lake City. I don't remember the exact time. I think it was like 9:45-ish in the morning. But as you see here, K2 is approaching the ascendant. What does that mean? That turns somebody's life upside down, especially if they're in their K2 dasha. When you combine this with Mars, I think what happened to Roseanne today is going to kick her into some sort of overdrive. Something's going to happen with Roseanne that where she's not going to take this sitting down, and we're going to see Roseanne make a comeback at some point in her life. I really don't think that she's down and out. She's probably going to end up rebranding herself, really. So that's my prediction with Roseanne Barr. I don't think she's going to be going away. She actually has a whole bunch of audience that she could cater to with her new show. She just needs to have her own platform. And I think once she has her own platform, she'll be able to do very well. Now, the TrumpKim Summit is back on off, but it's on. I mean, I knew Trump was bluffing. And I think this summit is going to take place. Now, let's take a look at the transit here. If you take a look at this, this is Trump's chart. Let's see. Trump's chart here is on the, I believe, the inside. Let me just move my camera over here. Let's see, summit. Okay, so yeah, Donald Trump's chart here is on the inside. I'm like trying to read my charts here. My camera's just basically blocking it because I have the camera on top of the laptop. It's one of those webcams. So yeah, the inside here is Donald Trump's chart. On the outside is the current transit. So when you want to look and make predictions with transit, what you're really trying to look for is conjunctions. And if you see right here, Donald Trump's Venus is going to be conjunct his natal Venus on that day. Very good timing for Donald Trump, okay? And also, too, his Mercury is also going to be in Gemini. That's another good, this is also another good indicator that Trump's communication is going to be flourishing during this time because Trump's communication style is Gemini. And when Mercury's in Gemini, that gives them the extra force of power to actually take their big ideas and bring them down into concrete form. The other thing too is if you see the Sun and Rahu here are also conjunct. So this is kind of a little bit of also good time. And so this really plays into Donald Trump's ego, his force of ego, right? So when I see this, I think that Trump's going to get 90% of what he wants out of this summit if it happens on this particular day. Now, if we look at Kim's chart here, or Mr. Kim, I guess in Korean the last name comes first. We take a look at the transit here, and we have Jupiter and Saturn here are conjunct. That's actually a pretty decent transit. Which shows that he's actually going to get some sort of benefit out of this. And also, too, his Jupiter is in a position, his Saturn is in a position of exaltation, and it's being transited by this Jupiter here. So what this is going to show is a lot of karmic hard work is going to come to fruition. And I think what this is going to do is Jupiter and Saturn coming together, I think will help open up North Korea. At least they're going to, I think he's going to walk away feeling that he got what he needed out of this summit. Other than that, there's really not too many conjunctions here in the chart. So this is really the bottom line is the summit's really favoring Trump. So if this goes down, I think Donald Trump's going to walk away with a pretty big win here. At least that's the way I'm reading it. So, all right, that is all I had for today. If you want to hit me up, the contact stuff is on the banner on the front page. Otherwise, hopefully I will see you tomorrow. Like and share.